And finally, lockdown restrictions halted the rock group Queen's world tour in its tracks. But while fans wait for it to begin again next year, the band's drummer, Roger Taylor, decided he wanted to break free and create his own kind of magic. So he's about to set off on his own tour of smaller, more intimate venues with some new music and some of the old hits.
They're all cymbals and they're all different. They all have a different tone.
When it comes to drum kits, Roger Taylor knows what he's talking about.
And you're going to be out on the road playing them very shortly.
I am. I'm going to be bashing the hell out of them.
He has, after all, been doing that for the best part of half a century. Now, for the first time in 2 decades, he is set to tour as a solo artist, while he waits for Queen's pandemic hit concerts to resume next year. The 72-year-old says it's now or never.
Thought, well, you know, TikTok, there's time's a waste, time's moving on, and I might not be able to do it again in a solo capacity. I have a great band, so I thought this is probably be the last time that I do it as a solo. But Brian and I intend to continue with Queen as long as we can do it properly.
Earlier this month, Freddie Mercury would have been 75. In a few weeks, in November, we'll reach the 30th anniversary of his death. Do you think about him still all the time?
All the time. I've got an enormous statue of him in my garden. So they took it away from the theatre in London. But it's nice to have him there. And of course, we think about him every day. I mean, every day. He's just part of our fabric.
In lockdown, Taylor recorded this video to honour healthcare workers, with the band now fronted by Adam Lambert, as well as making a solo album. Guitarist Brian May is, says Taylor, recuperating well after a heart attack last year. He meanwhile has a little arthritis.
The hands are still just about there, you know, hanging on.
Do you think there's an age at which rock stars should call it a day?
Probably.
Do you?
Yeah.
What would that be?
Well, I think if you can, should we say, if you can embrace older age and do it gracefully, and you've got to stay vaguely dignified. I mean, you can't be a young tearaway at my age, you know. Be a bit though.
Roger Taylor clearly intends to try. Nina Nanar, News at 10.
And that's it for tonight from all the team here on News at 10. Good night. See you tomorrow.